Hey guys, what's up? Denvito Chips here, and today I'm starting an all-new series with you guys called Denvito Chats. I'm super excited. It's a brand new series I'm going to be doing and mixing in with the other top 5 videos that I normally do. It's not replacing it, but it's something completely new, so I'm totally stoked. This is an opportunity for me to be able to share in a format that I don't normally do. The other videos are scripted, they're kind of rehearsed, and it's a lot of different editing and putting things together. This is more of a podcast meets a vlog kind of thing, and I'm sure there's a technical term for that. I don't know what it is, but that's what this is. And so this is an opportunity for you to flip this on while you're driving, while you're working on something. You don't have to be watching it, but if you want to, I'm gonna have some cool stuff on the screens too, so I'm super excited to be able to start this off and to share with you guys. Now again, I emphasize the fact that this is not scripted. You're getting unfiltered Denvito chips, so beware. Now, typically I don't do movie or television reviews because that really doesn't fit into what I typically do. I normally talk about lifestyle tips, life hacks, ways to make your life better. But as I was looking at these different movies, I was like, wow, these are some movies that have really changed my life in a positive way. And maybe you've seen some movies like that where they were different from the rest. It wasn't a Michael Bay action flick. It was actually a movie that really made you rethink things in your life. And so that's what these movies are for me. So I encourage you, at the end of this video, after I'm done sharing, in the comments, let me know, what are some movies that have changed your life? I'd love to hear them. Let's kick off the Denvito chat. The first video on my list is Star Wars. I can literally remember being a little kid in the 90s watching Star Wars. Now this was before The Phantom Menace even came out and all of those new Star Wars movies. I grew up watching the original trilogy on a special edition VHS set that my family had gotten me. And so I remember and some of you guys might remember, it came in like the box set, you know, with the different VHS sleeves, and it was all new artwork and design for the movies. And I had seen all of them and I enjoyed all of them, but as a kid, I loved Star Wars A New Hope. I can literally remember sitting there watching Obi-Wan die for the first time when Darth Vader, you know, just goes Shah! And, you know, just kills him. And it was like, ah! Oh my gosh, like that for me was like devastating. That was ridiculous. And so even to this day, I mean, Star Wars has done some pretty cool stuff since then, aside from the Disney trilogy. Really don't have much to say about that. We'll just let that be. But Star Wars A New Hope for me was life-changing because it opened my eyes to how big cinema could be, to how big a movie could be in someone's life, and it just sparked my creativity. I mean, after that, I had made my own homemade Star Wars films. I had written comics and stories, different things, all inspired by Star Wars. And so this movie was definitely a huge landmark in my life as far as influence. It was just so cool. To this day, still one of my favorite movies of all time. The next movie on this list is Saving Private Ryan. I don't know of anybody else that has done quite as good a job as Steven Spielberg did recreating a World War II setting. Because when you're watching it, it just looks and feels so real and in a horrifying way. I remember watching it with my dad, and I hadn't seen very many R-rated films, and so this is one of the few that I got to watch as I was an older teen, watching it with my dad, and it just blew me away because not only was it so visceral and real and palpable, I mean, you felt like you were right there. Not only was that a huge factor for me in watching that movie, but it also just horrified me to see what American soldiers went through, and so many other soldiers went through, to secure our freedom, to fight for our rights and our freedom, and to fight in this war. I mean, it just blew me away. It gave me such a huge appreciation for what these men had gone through for our country and for the world, really. It was just incredible to me. It's pretty much one of those movies that I watch almost annually. Like literally, about every other year or so, I'll pop it in. I've got it on Blu-ray, I'll pop it in and watch it. And I mean, it's that affecting of a movie for me that I have to watch it at least every once in a while. To kind of stoke the flame inside of me for, you know, history and for what all of those good men and women sacrificed for us. It's a really powerful movie. The next movie on this list is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Now, this is one of those movies that I wasn't exactly expecting to affect me emotionally the way that it did. I mean, it was a Christmas comedy release. Ben Stiller acting and directing, for those of you that don't know. He actually directed the whole dang thing. and I was not expecting it to be nearly as affecting as it was. And so I didn't even see it in theaters, actually. I saw it on rental in like March of that next year. So like way after the holidays, you know, totally missed the beat on that one. And I watched it with my family, and it just affected me in such a crazy way. I mean, not only was it funny and hilarious, and I know that critics didn't like it for some really screwball reason. I mean, it was a phenomenal film. I think the critics were just being nitpicky about it. But that movie really made me rethink the way that I lived my life. Because here's a guy who's like constantly trapped in his brain and has all of these dreams that he's dreaming, but really isn't living a very exciting life, right? His life is kind of mundane and non-exciting, the complete opposite of exciting, and he's just not fulfilling or living up to any of the aspirations or dreams that he has. But then he realizes that there's this whole life out there that he's meant to live that he hasn't even tapped into yet. And so that's a really broad explanation of a movie that I don't want to spoil for you if you haven't seen it. But seriously, such an inspirational movie, and it caused me to stop and think and say, okay, am I living the life that I want to live right now? And not even talking financially or success-wise, but just asking myself, am I who I want to be right now in this moment? Am I living the life that I want to right now? My passions, my pursuits, my relationships with others, with family, with friends, with people. Am I living that kind of life? And after watching that movie, it really changed the filter through which I looked through my life. And so to this day, such a huge landmark film for me. Absolutely love it. The next movie is Remember the Titans. Let's just clarify right now, right up from the get-go, that this is probably the best Disney sports movie that they ever came out with. And I know, we've got Glory Road and McFarland USA and $1 Million Arm and all these different awesome Disney, you know, sports flicks, but Remember the Titans was really something special. This was probably my first, how would you put it? Probably my first introduction to racial issues, at least in film. And so seeing this movie was a really big deal for me because it opened my eyes for the first time to see how ugly the world could be towards someone of the opposite color. And so, I mean, for that reason alone, it was just a big deal for me. It was a big film. And then, you know, you're talking about also just the inspirational side of it. Just people with different cultural backgrounds, different ethnicities, different color of skin coming together and not only working together as a team, but also learning to love each other. That for me just immediately made it a Hallmark film in my book. And to this day, it's still one of the biggest films for me because it's like every time I watch it, it gets my blood boiling and I'm like, hoorah! Like, yes! Go! Like, it just gets your heart pumping, you know? And so to this day, it's still one of those big rooting movies for me that I can't get away from. Absolutely love it. The next and final movie on this list is The Passion of the Christ. Now, this is kind of one of those movies that has become a bit of a cliche in Christian culture because everybody always says, oh, you're a Christian. Of course that's your favorite movie. It's every Christian's favorite movie. And there's probably a reason for that because it's a really powerful and amazing film. And the first time I saw it, I was probably a little young to fully appreciate it. I mean, the first time I saw it, I'm gonna be honest, I was just scarred for life. I didn't grow up watching any R-rated movies as a kid, actually. It was my first rated R movie. How many other Christians can say that? The Passion of the Christ was your first R-rated movie. If you grew up in my generation in the church, drop that in the comments and let me know because, I mean, that was a lot of us, man. That was my first ever R-rated movie and my mind was just blown. I mean, initially just by the buckets of blood and horrific violence. I was just like, ah! It was just like awful. I remember watching the movie and I was like, who could film this? So I was like, this is just so graphic and gory. And, you know, to my detriment, that's all I saw as a kid was just a bunch of violence. And I really didn't appreciate the story at all or what was happening on the screen at all. Now, the second time that I watched the movie, it literally turned me upside down. The second time I saw this movie, I literally bawled my eyes out because the realization hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is Jesus. This actually happened, and Jesus, this person, he bled and died on a cross and was tortured for my salvation, for my sake. As an up-and-coming Christian, this movie, I saw when I was probably about 12 years old. It affected me in such a powerful way, and it completely redefined who Jesus was to me. It completely redefined my Christianity, my religion that I lived up to, that I embraced. It just completely blew me away. And so to this day, it's kind of like Saving Private Ryan. It's one of those movies where I alternate every other year and watch almost annually because it's just such an inspirational film to me. I mean, when you, as a Christian, watch that movie and realize that that's what this person, Jesus, gave up for you, it does alter and change your life in a significant way. And even if you don't identify as a Christian, acknowledging the fact that Jesus was at the very least this historical figure that died this tragic death and was raised to life. Even historically, there's no account of Jesus's body in the tomb. Like, that's a life-changing movie right there, and to this day, is still changing lives. And it's also worth noting that nobody else could probably make a movie like that the way Mel Gibson could. I mean, the dude is just a radical, and for a lot of negative reasons in the past as well, but I also like to think that nobody else could have made a movie like that other than Mel Gibson, because he is not afraid to offend, he's not afraid to be bloody and gory, and to be honest, when you're telling the story of the crucifixion of Jesus, that's kind of the story that you can't help but tell. There's no other way to tell it. That is the story. That is the absolute unfiltered story of Jesus, is a bloody crucifixion, is his sacrifice. So pretty big film. Now here's the reason why I wanted to do this whole video, is because cinema, when it's at its best, has the ability to change our lives in a positive way. I mean, maybe you can think right now for a second or two, what are some movies that you've watched that really redefined the way that you think and act and live your life? What are those movies? You know, you have your Michael Bay Transformers action flicks out there that maybe, you know, are fun to watch and it's popcorn entertainment, but it really didn't affect your life in any positive way. And then you have those movies that you watch where it's like, wow, that really affected my mind and my thinking and changed my life. What are those movies for you? Let me know in the comments below. It could be one movie, it could be 10 movies, it could be 2 movies. Let me know what movies have affected you. But yeah, that's the beauty of cinema, is that cinema, at its best, has the opportunity to affect us and influence us in a positive way. Now in today's culture, there's a lot of movies that aren't worth a dime. They're not worth anything because it's trash and it's hollow and it's negative and it's corrosive. But then there's movies out there that are positive, that are uplifting, that are life-changing, and maybe they're not always pretty. You know, 2 of the movies that I've mentioned, Saving Private Ryan and Passion of the Christ especially, are anything but pretty films, but they still had the opportunity to affect my life in a positive way. And so what are those movies for you? I'd love for you to let me know in the comments below. And also, if you'd like to see more movies like this, if you'd like to hear me talk more about movies that change lives, let me know, and I would love to share more from my perspective of movies that have affected my life, and in turn give you the opportunity to be able to share with me what are some movies that have affected you in a really positive way. Now before you go, please be sure to ring the bell, which means in YouTube language, subscribe to the YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, Denvito Chips. Subscribe to that, hit the like button, and comment when you're done, because all 3 of those things make a huge difference for me as a YouTube content creator. So be more than happy if you'd be willing to do that today. Well guys, that's the end of my first ever Denvito Chats video. Again, let me know if you want more of it in the comments. I'll be doing more in the future. I'm super excited. This has been Denvito Chips. Thanks so much and take care.